Dragon Quest XI is a game with a very interesting history, originally being a Japanese-only 3DS game before being ported to the PlayStation with a notoriously terrible soundtrack because the composer was a chud, up until the definitive edition of the game released on all systems with new side content, expanded story content, and a reorchestrated soundtrack by the Tokyo Metropolitan Orchestra, finally doing the game the justice it deserves. I really like this game. Now, I'm not a huge Dragon Quest fan. The only games I really say I play and I'm a real fan of would probably be 4, 8, and 11, but I do still enjoy them. And I can easily recommend this game to anyone looking to try out that definitive edition, as it exists and it's easily accessible. The visuals are that awesome brand of Akira Toriyama excellence, may he rest in peace. The orchestral soundtrack is fantastic, and the cast of characters is one of the best I've seen in any JRPG. It's not the easiest game in the world, but it's usually a pretty fair challenge. And then you fight the Giant Squid. This fight is still very firmly in the game's first act, but it does take place after some time has passed. You've gotten your boat, you've gotten most of your party, and you've even gotten the new additions Rab and Jade, who've started to really grow and develop as characters. Especially Rab, holy shit, I love this old man.
Eleanor, my girl, Erwin, I found your boy. He wasn't lost to us after all.
Unlike other bosses I've talked about, there's not really a level leading up to this boss, but there is a really funny line. You just get on a boat and fight him.
Hey, we're looking for the Doge?
Honestly, the fight against Tentacular is more or less just a battle in the overworld that's a subplot in the main quest. Because you're at the point where you have to start gathering the missing MacGuffins in order to reach Yggdrasil because Dragon Quest Heroes journey yada yada yada. The story is deeper than that, but that's all you really need to know as far as Act 1 is concerned. And then you get to the fight with the Giant Squid, and all of a sudden this dude is getting 3 attacks every turn, beating the crap out of your party while being able to defend its main body, and more often than not, this is where a new player will see their first game over. It was where I saw my first, and my second, and my 9th. Yeah, this fight is going to kick the unprepared player's ass. Dragon Quest XI isn't exactly an easy game, but outside of a super boss, there was no other fight in the game that took me more than 3 attempts to beat, while this guy took me over 10 attempts, because it's tradition. Let's look at what bosses lead up to it, shall we? Your first true boss fight of the game is going to be against the Slayer of the Sands. There's 3 mini-bosses before it, but they all have regular battle music, so I don't really know if I'd count them as proper bosses. This guy has some physical attacks and can be strong, but he's really just there to get the player used to battling with a full party of 4, as you now have your hero, Eric, the goat, Veronica, and Serena. Sylvando's hilariously flamboyant ass is also here, but he's an AI-controlled party member, so we don't need to worry about him right now. He can hit a little hard, but Serena can reliably out-heal anything this monster does, and he can be reliably put to sleep with Snooze, making him a spiky punching bag, so just wear gloves and you're good.
All in a day's work for the Prince of Gallopolis.
Next up is Jasper the douchebag. He hits like a truck, and Eric is captured here, so you're forced to utilize Sylvando as a party member, but like, oh no, I can't use a good party member, I guess I'll just have to settle for another good party member, how horrible. Jasper hits hard, but his offense is pretty much exclusive to single target attacks, and despite him having big scary dark magic, his magic attack is pathetic. It barely even does 10 damage if that. It's the double strikes you gotta watch out for in this fight. After that's Rab and Jade fought during the tournament, but even if you lose this fight you won't game over, so you can pretty easily just keep throwing yourself at it. Really focus more on survival, Vince can reliably beat the duo for you. After that's Aractagon, and this guy would be a pretty big step up in difficulty with his increased health, but his damage isn't as high as you may think a Akira Toriyama spider would have. His real threats come from being able to poison you and bind you, as well as being the first boss to really utilize multi-target attacks, which would be super scary, but not only is Serena able to do a good job healing your team off, but Rab is here as an AI teammate that cannot be killed and will repeatedly heal up and cure weakened party members at this point. Even if Veronica does go down, Rab can bring her back with Zing. Heck, Serena may also know it by this point. Now, that being said, with 1,225 HP and his 999 MP, he seems to be pretty intimidating, but with your larger party and Rab basically being an unlimited healing supply, he's not going to be too bad. And not too long after this, Jade joins your party, which is pretty cool. And that takes us back to our fight against the Giant Squid monster.
Oh
You have got to be kidding.
Then we get to the Giant Squid, and you'd think with a party of 7 he'd be easy, but no, he absolutely stomped my ass time and time again. His agility may be slightly lower than a Raktagon, so he doesn't act quite as often, but 79 agility still means he gets about 1.5 actions for every turn your party takes, and that's just him. He's also got 2 tentacles that act independently, also have high agility, and they get to attack as well, or defend the boss. Now, as a small mercy, his MP is comedically low at only 20, but outside of Chilling Breath, he doesn't really care about spells. He went to the Nergigante school of beating the shit out of you. Well, that's a lie. He also has Sweet Breath, which can put your party members to sleep as well, because of course it can. And as far as bulk and offense goes, not only is he stronger than a Raktagon, he's also got more health and offense than the boss that comes multiple hours after him. And I still haven't talked about the tentacles that each have their own 250-ish HP, and can choose to block attacks aimed at the Giant Squid, so they have to get taken out as well, meaning Tentacular actually has something closer to 1,845 HP instead of his listed 1,345 HP, so it's about a 50% jump over a Raktagon or Dora. Except I lied, because he can respawn the tentacles and they'll come back with half health. He's pretty much guaranteed to do this at least once, and each time he does, it's putting another 250 HP on the board for you to deal with. And defensively, his strategy is to just beat the shit out of you, but it's an effective strategy when he can effortlessly hit your entire party with physical attacks, so it's much harder to mitigate than AoE magic, and his hits all have the ability to knock a party member down, making them unable to take an action until they get back up, so it means he's able to make party members unable to take their turns either by putting them to sleep or stunning them, and the stunning is just a bonus effect of him hitting you, and he has a higher attack stat than anything before this point in the game, and even a fair bit after, with the exception of the Black Dragon in the early game that you're supposed to run away from. And if a party member dies, revival items are very limited in the early game of Dragon Quest XI, and the revival spell only has a 50% chance of working. So how in the ever-loving hell are we even supposed to beat this boss? Well, okay, it's an early game boss in an RPG, so the obvious answer is to grind levels, and thankfully there are enemies right outside of the ruins of Dundrasil that have a very high chance of having up to 3 metal slimes join them in battle, which give a ton of experience. Respec your protagonist in Sylvando to learn Metal Slash, and you can power level the team fairly quickly. I definitely recommend being at least level 20 by this point in the game, but unless you're willing to grind up to something crazy like level 40, you're still going to be in for a rough time, so we will need some level of strategy here. Well, as it turns out, there's also a lady in Honolulu that gives you the sound cannon that Tentacular hates and causes the fight to start with him being confused. I actually didn't know about this until looking it up for this very video, and went back to retry the fight with that in mind. It definitely helps, but it was by no means a free win button. Either way, the main game plan remains the exact same. Now, unlike Tales of Vesperia, where you only had bad options, everyone is actually pretty solid in Dragon Quest XI up to this point. The real issue is finding a way to outlast his onslaught. The best way to survive is to kill the boss quickly, and he's very weak to fire, so I highly recommend having your team spec into fire-based attacks like Flame, Slash, and Bang. In Jade's case, however, I recommend having her set up with Thunder Thrust, as its accuracy is a coin toss, but the insane damage output is worth the risk in my opinion. As for Eric, I'd recommend giving him some poison skills, as the boss is weak to it, and that is going to be a key part of winning this fight. Your team choice is ultimately up to you, but I would personally recommend having Eric and Jade in the starting lineup with Jade in slot 4, that way if the squad wipes, she'll still remain on the field when the reinforcements come in because of the way Dragon Quest VII's mechanics work and party system works. For support, Rab or Serena is perfectly fine, but keep one in reserves as insurance. It will come down to personal preference, as Rab has stronger healing magic, higher health, and better offensive spells, but Serena has stronger healing capabilities, higher agility, so she gets turns more often, and she has Hymn of Ice, which can make Tentacular's Chilling Breath a complete non-issue. This is not to discount the other two, however. Sylvando can also work great, but for the strategy I use, I always prefer having the hero as the slot 1 fighter. It's easier for him to learn Miracle Slash for survivability and Flaming Slash for damage, while he also has really strong pep powers he can perform with Eric, which are a key part of the strategy I use. Veronica is the riskiest teammate, as her multi-target damage output is insane, and what she can do to the boss is pretty much unrivaled damage-wise, but she can easily be killed by the squid before she even gets a chance at her second turn, and if you're really unlucky, she might die before you even get to her first turn. Otherwise, equip your team with the best gear you have and throw on any accessories you may have for menial stat boosts and resistances, because in the early game you really don't have a lot to work with. Personally, I went with the team of Hero, Eric, Rab, and Jade, with the only important positioning in that slot being Jade in slot 4. Lastly, if you have a pep hop, give it to someone in your starting lineup. If you don't, make sure Eric has his pep boost ready to go before the fight starts. He's a lock for the team and will carry you through the fight if you're using this strategy. The other big thing to note is there is another strategy you can do that's a lot of the same setup of poisoning and hitting him with counter magic, but have Sylvando focus on evasion buffing and attempting to dodge tank the boss as he gets poisoned to death. It's a risky strategy, but if you have the cannon and get lucky with proccing poison, you should be able to make this strategy work regardless of however low your levels may be. When the fight begins, we've got a few things we have to do. I've often seen Jade go first in these battles, so I recommend trying your luck with Thunder Thrust on the tentacle. If it lands, it'll take out over half of the tentacle's health, which will be very useful. Now, if Eric isn't pepped up, have him go for Poison Slash on Tentacular, as we're going to try to proc Poison on the boss. If he is pepped up, have him use Scorched Earth. This will make the boss and its tentacles take 80 to 100 damage for each of their actions, often killing the injured tentacle before it can even get a second action. And of course, if he isn't pepped up, then you have their pep pop, have somebody use that on him. Our main goal is to make sure the boss is both poisoned and getting hit by Eric's counterspell every time it moves, because that'll mean the boss takes over 100 damage for every action, and while it doesn't hit twice for the boss's double actions, the boss still gets enough turns that it'll take out a majority of the HP for you. Now, after both of those go off, the fight is mostly going to be a game of survival. Have your healer focus on healing up the party, or using Kasap to debuff the Giant Squid if everyone is doing okay. The hero can focus on healing the team, or go for damage with Flame Slash or Miracle Slash. Or if you want to play it safe, enter Sword Stance so you can parry his tentacle strikes, because yeah, you can do that. It's pretty cool. Jade should pretty much focus exclusively on spamming Thunder Thrust over and over, because the accuracy isn't great, but it hits often enough and the damage is too good to ignore. And as for Eric, he can do whatever he likes as long as the poison and counter magic remain up. The poison will likely last the entire fight, but if Scorched Earth goes down, then Rubble Rouser or Boulder Bringer, if you have it, will serve our purposes well enough and will be very... Now, the fight isn't guaranteed. It's still going to be a question of, does the boss stun your party members entirely too much with its attacks? Does he put them to sleep? Or, God forbid, he gets a crit and one-shot someone? But the strategy works consistently enough that a modestly leveled party should be able to get a fairly consistent win against him and get past this massive roadblock to play the rest of this great game.
Thank you! Darlings, it was nothing, really!
You didn't do anything, Sylvando! Dragon Quest XI is a great game I can highly recommend. I wish I knew about the canon earlier, because that probably would have helped me a lot. I remember playing this game back in January of 2020, and enjoying the game a lot, up to the point that I got walled by Tentacular so bad I basically dropped the game for a while and didn't pick it back up until April of 2020, when we were all kind of lacking things to do. I definitely appreciate the ideas behind the boss, but I feel like he's such a jump in difficulty that it can feel oppressive. Again, no other boss in the story took me more than 3 tries to beat, while this guy took me 10 attempts to bring down because of how aggressive he is. I feel like this fight wouldn't have been nearly as bad if it was just a little bit later in the game, because otherwise, if I want to play through the game again, I more or less need to spend a while grinding up my party to realistically stand a chance against this boss, then I steamroll the next few hours. It's an odd one, and unfortunately, it's kind of an outlier in a fairly decently balanced game. Unless you're playing on hard mode, then you'll want to be like level 40 for this boss fight. But anyways, that's all I've got for this video. If you liked it and want to see more content of varying quality, consider liking and subscribing. And if you really liked it, consider hyping the video. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care. Okay, but seriously, I get not being able to name my protagonist Jackass, but why the hell can't I use my own name Christian as the protagonist name in this game?